good evening, and season's greetings. This is your servant and Senator Carla Joseph, welcoming you to another segment of my bi-weekly show, On Point, heard every other Tuesday here on WSTA Radio 1340 AM, the People Station, from 6 to 6:30 p.m. Well, we are really in the midst of the season, the Christmas season. We have a lot of concerts that's going to be had over the next 2 weeks. We have a lot of Christmas parties, a time to be joyous. And we want to give thanks to whom this season is really about, our good Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, his coming. We had Advent about 2 Sundays ago, and now we are really into the heart of the Christmas season. We see a lot of lights out. Christmas lights are out, and people are really getting into the festive. And we have so much to be thankful for because we still have life. We are at the brink where we are now getting out of the pandemic that has held us captive for almost 2 years, and you're seeing a lot of people traveling. Obviously, wear their masks. We're not going into shutdown. So much great and wonderful things are happening in our lives, especially here in the Virgin Islands. I just had to run away from a committee on rules and judiciary meeting. We have a very long agenda. It's a very arduous agenda, ambitious, so we're going to be there for a good next 2 to 3, maybe even 4 hours going through all of those matters. But what I wanted to say is that we did a fantastic job, and I want to give our governor, the Honorable Albert Bryan Jr. and his team, kudos for the individuals they sent down to be confirmed. For the Committee on Rules and Judiciary, and I'm a member of that committee, the governor sent down 3 ladies, all from, and who we consider today, all from our lovely island, Love City, St. John. The first was Dr. Dion Wells Hendrington, and she is nominated to fill the position of Commissioner of Education. Then we have Ms. Delia Thomas, and she was nominated and is nominated to fill the position of Inspector General for the Office of the Inspector General. And last but not least, we have Ms. Leona Smith, and she is renominated to fill the board position on the Virgin Islands Port Authority Board of Governors. All of the 3 ladies that I mentioned are from Love City, and they did a really great job in explaining their vision for each of their areas, as well as looking at where they have need. I just want to highlight especially something that I really appreciate from Commissioner nominee Dr. Dion Wells Hendrington. She has worked her way up from the trenches, from being a teacher to being a principal and superintendent, all the way to becoming a commissioner. And so I really do appreciate persons like that, because then they could really know the ins and out of how to manage and how to direct and how to lead a ship of people to the future. But one of the things that really stands out to me with her testimony is the level of standards that she is looking to put in place and have put in place so that we can address learning loss with our young people, and also to support our parents. They're bringing back, she indicated they're going to look at bringing back the parent university. Kudos for that, because right now is critical. I mean, there's no other place that I can tell you in the nation who have been through so much our young people and us as adults have been through so much. We've been through 2 Category 5 hurricanes and a pandemic, and we are isolated. And so we have a level of anxiety. So she's looking at bringing wraparound service, not only for the teachers and the students, but also for her staff and the parents. So that's a key part there. And another thing that she mentioned, which I think is critical, because I'm really a big supporter of allowing persons to have the flexibility who are in the trenches, similar to her, to be able to direct what is needed and to act on it quickly. And when you're dealing with human beings, you have to be in a position to act quickly. You can't, because the situations are live and they're happening in real time. So you have to be in a position to respond in real time and as quickly and expeditiously as possible. So what she said is that she is going to look and have more site-based, meaning that the principals have site-based management so that they can focus on those critical needs and address them rapidly. And that's what we really need. The schools need to have that level of autonomy to be able to address their issue. It's not one blanket covers everything, because we have become, because of the hurricanes and other extenuating issues, we have become a situation wherein one school may be ahead of one school and the other may be not so ahead, and they may have very unique challenges that only that one school is experiencing. So that principal, along with her staff, they would know what is needed and what they need to do to address them, because they're individualized. Like, it's similar in school. When you're teaching, you especially for certain students, you have an individualized learning plan. So you have to customize what you are going to be provided and the services you're going to be provided based on the need in the school. You may have certain students who may need more academic remedial courses in their reading, while some of them may not need all of that. They may just need it in the math, or they may need a combination of both. And so the principals will have the autonomy, and along with conferring with the teachers and the guidance counselors to bring that level of resources to the schools, so to help increase, and this is the outcome they're looking at, help increase our young people numeracy and literacy levels. Those are key things that needs to happen. And also to make whatever repairs that they need to do in the schools, and equipment that they need to bring into the schools, so that they can move the young people and be able to be responsive to the needs that they are seeing on the ground for our young people. And I really appreciate that. So I really give her high marks for being able to notice that and to look at setting that in place. And of course, she has given a commitment to do her very best to spend down all of the monies that we receive from the federal government and the bonds and the like. I'm working with her team to do that. So I really want to applaud her, and I also applaud the governor and his choice for commissioner for the Department of Education. And what I really appreciate, I'm a Christian, I don't hide from it, but that's a recipe for success, your faith. And she really talked about it in her testimony. And you will hear a lot of persons who are successful in life. They lean heavily on their faith. They lean very heavily on their faith in God. And I stress all the time, I'm going to take every opportunity, especially on my talk show, to encourage parents as part of providing an environment for your children, even if you're a guardian, your godparents, to be productive and successful human beings as they develop. Encourage you to find a church home and get your children into Sunday school and all of the activities. It's not going to harm them. In fact, it's going to strengthen them so that they are better prepared to handle the tsunamis, the earthquakes, the hurricanes, the ups and downs of what we call our journey of life. So that is one of the things I really want to stress to this evening, based on the testimony from our Commissioner nominee for the Department of Education, Dr. Dionne Wells Hendrington. And her mother is also an educator, and she actually was the St. Thomas and St. John superintendent at one time, her mother. So kudos to that family and congratulations. Also, I had the opportunity to talk to the nominee for the Inspector General position, Ms. Delia Thomas. She has over 33 years of working in the office of the Inspector General. She too has worked her way up. These two nominees by themselves are an inspiration to those of us who are career public servant. I'm a career public servant, even though I left government service for 2 years and went into the private sector to learn about building affordable homes using LIHTC funds, and LIHTC is low income tax credit funds, and to put together those type of funding resources, and of course to hone my grant writing skills. So I definitely appreciate that they have worked very hard, stayed focused, given their all, and the governor really appreciated their stick-to-itiveness and not giving up or leaving. And these are persons within my age group or a little older, and they are now being placed in a leadership position within the agencies and departments that they have worked tirelessly for over the past 20 and in some cases 33 years. I want to also touch on Ms. Leona Smith, and of course this is a renomination. She is also a member of the Board of Governors for the Government Employees Retirement System. She's also very much intricately involved in the carnival, the festivities for St. John. And you gotta say this and give her her jacket. St. John Carnival and their festivities are usually at a high level, and I really appreciate her coordination and just her leadership. And she's very open and approachable person, and she, I think, will continue to be a really good fit for the Virgin Islands Port Authority Board of Governors. So those are two of the nominations that we had three of the nomination that we had this evening, and I'm looking forward to voting for all three of them when they come to the full body for full consideration, which will be next week, Tuesday, December 20th. That's when we have legislative session. Other item I wanted to report to the public is, sometimes we go on some professional development and peer-to-peer training and conferences. And so I had the opportunity this past week to attend a peer-to-peer training and conference for the Council of State Governments. This was very informative. I'm really grateful for the wealth of information shared, because they talked about one of the items that is dear to my heart, of course, and that's education and workforce development. And they're seeing what we are seeing here. We see it a bit more concentrated than they are seeing it in the United States, but they're feeling it as well, that we have a deficiency in our workforce, in the manpower, the individuals who we can hire. A lot of career pathways, you aren't seeing the numbers to meet the need and the demand. So we have a really smaller population of workforce, and we really need to try to get persons interested in various career paths so that they could continue and the work can continue. And so you're seeing that a lot of our people who have the institutional knowledge are retiring, and when they retire, you have to bring in somebody new, or persons are just getting better offers for positions, and so that leave that position vacant, and that allows you that in fact presents a challenge with getting the workload moving quickly. It's all over. So I touched on teachers and the like, and one of the discussions that I had a part to be in at this conference, the Council of State Governments, is they're talking and having discussion regarding compacts for professional careers. The three that they discussed, one was, of course, in dentistry. The second was in massage therapy, and the third, which I think was really important, was teachers. They're looking at crafting legislation wherein a certification for a teacher, say in Ohio, can also be the same certification for a teacher here in the Virgin Islands, so that when there is a demand for teachers in the Virgin Islands, teachers from Ohio can come. But we also have legislation in place for virtual learning. So those are opportunities there. We are not going to be in a position to move our islands forward productively and efficiently if we don't have people who are trained and ready to do the work. And that's one of the things we're looking at. We're looking at demand-driven industries. And here are the demand-driven industries that have been identified by the Department of Labor and also by the Workforce Development Board: construction, healthcare, tourism, IT. Those are the main demand-driven industry, as well as administration. I forgot to mention that one. Those are the main demand. That's where you're seeing a lot of needs for persons to be trained and employed in those areas. This isn't like maybe 25 years ago when you had a workforce that was trained and you couldn't find a job. This is now where the jobs are available, and you're having workers are demanding or can anticipate a certain pay scale based on their experience and their qualifications as well as their educational level. So that was fantastic. Another item that we did cover that I really appreciated was surrounding telehealth. Again, demand-driven industry, things that we should be looking at here territorially to see when and how we could, beef up and increase the number of persons who are actually participating in some of these and getting employed in some of these career pathways. And it's really vital, because if we don't have sufficient manpower to and persons working in these industry, a lot of things are going to go slip through the cracks. And in healthcare, we don't want anything slipping through the crack, especially when you are dealing with persons who are in dire need of services, life and death issues. So it's very critical to really have persons who have the level of discipline and who are able to do the work and are committed. And one of the things I really tend to ask, especially my own staff who is here with me tonight, is that look at your work product. Don't look so much at the clock. Invest the time into doing a good job, because then you could say, I really earn my money. Because what you do affects somebody else. It's not just about you, it's about the we. So we have to be able to assure that we are providing opportunities to build our workforce capacity, but at the same time, our workforce, the human capital, we should be receptive to receiving the preparation, and knowing that even if you criticize somebody, it's not to be taken personally. It's so that you can see some improvement. I really always love our Virgin Islands, because when you hear about Virgin Islanders leaving the territory and they go off to the States, most of the time they're doing very well. And people and their employers tend to keep them and promote them quicker than we do here. But that's another, conversation for another segment. But those are things that we want to continue to do. We want to, and that's why education is so critical, and training. We want to keep churning out really high caliber of individuals who are knowledgeable, who are able to do the work and get things done. And knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, and knowledge is, more importantly, one of the main notches in the key to unlock any doors. To have that level of knowledge, have that grasp of understanding. And so this opportunity to attend the Council of State Governments annual conference was very, very good for me. A great exposure. I'm making contacts with some other state senators in hope of seeing what they're doing in their states, and also sharing with them what we are doing here, so that we could find some common ground and bring some good legislation. I also had an opportunity to sit in one of the sessions, and they were talking about this. They were really having a robust discussion about the electricity and their electrical grid and modernizing it. One of the panelists from Hawaii indicated that they are at the stage where they're doing some RFP in Hawaii to bring a lot of renewable energy sources, because they are very much dependable on fossil fuels. Ding, ding, ding. That's kind of like us, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. And I was very surprised. Here is one of the 50 states who is saying that they're very much dependent on fossil fuel. And we have migrated to having other renewable sources. We are not there where we need to be yet, but I was very pleased to say, I noticed that we were a little bit ahead of Hawaii. And so that they are now looking at that. Now they have solar farms. I did see that they have solar farms, and they also have some windmills, but they don't have many. And those solar farms, based on my understanding at the presentation, are basically private, and they haven't worked any partnership with the Hawaiian Public Power Authority. So that's something that they're putting out there, and to definitely look at putting a lot of their electrical sources and the infrastructure in place to go underground. So I really have to applaud them. I know that's something that we are looking at right now as well, to do a lot of our infrastructure repairs and put them underground, to include our internet as well as our electrical and the water. So that's one of the great things that we've been doing. And I really have to really say, you know, we've had some really intelligent, hardworking people, but we have to do a lot more to get where we need to go, and really to move that needle along further. We also talked about the mental health. One of the other, I'm almost out of time, is the mental health crisis. You see, that's what I said. Most of the time, we in the Virgin Islands have similar issues that are being faced by the states, but ours is more concentrated. And I always say we are more concentrated because we are landlocked, meaning that we are isolated. So you can't drive from one district out to the next, or one county to another county, or even one state to another state. So that's one of the things that we have a major issue with, because we are landlocked. And so they talked about the mental health crisis, and they're looking at legislation to address some of those issues, and the economic burden of treating individuals who have mental illness and who are unable to work. There's economic burden that comes along with persons who are unable to work because of their mental illness is so gripping to them that they don't want to leave their homes. They are unable to interface and have relationships with anybody. They're very, so that is one of the key. There's another aspect to mental health, and they're looking at it not in the junior high or even at a high school. They're looking at it even in the preschool, and looking at early diagnosis of mental health issue, and knowing that with early diagnosis you could get certain treatments. So it's being proactive in doing that. So there are some bills that they were looking at, and that includes step therapy, also patient adherence. Those are some, and high output of pocket costs. Those are some legislations that they're looking at to address some of the mental health issues, and there's some more in two. And also, like I mentioned, they're looking at the behavioral health in schools, and bringing some of the behavioral health clinicians into the schools to address some of the issues with behavioral health on the front end, rather than waiting until it's like junior high or high school, when you really see it has gotten out of hand, and the students have to be either highly medicated, so that the young people on the front end and the teachers and the counselors on the front end could be a part of addressing some of the issues with behavioral health once it is documented and observed and seen, and they have those assessments. So I think that is a great method, because our dynamics in our community is changing. Well, I am out of time. I can't believe it. And so I want to thank you for listening into our broadcast this evening, and join me for another segment of On Point, which is scheduled for December 27th, in 2 weeks' time, right here on WSTA 1340 AM. And thank you again for joining me and listening to me for On Point, which is heard every other Tuesday here on WSTA from 1340 from 6 to 6:30 p.m. Stay on point, Virgin Islands, and God bless.